You know what? This is just sad. This is genuinely, deeply sad, and it perfectly encapsulates everything that's gone wrong with the Atlanta Falcons over the past few years. DeAngelo Malone, the player they got for Matt Ryan, a franchise legend, a former MVP, is done in Atlanta after being a complete bust. 3 sacks in 58 games. 3 sacks. And now he's injured and probably never wearing a Falcons uniform again. This is a legacy of trading Matt Ryan. This is what Terry Fontenot has to show for moving on from a franchise icon. Let me be clear about what this story actually represents. It's not just about DeAngelo Malone being a draft bust. Every team has draft busts. Every GM misses on picks. That's part of football. But this is different because of what Malone symbolizes. He IS'd the Matt Ryan trade. He's a tangible result of one of the most painful decisions in franchise history. And the fact that he's been a complete failure makes that trade hurt even more than it already did. Here's what makes the situation so brutally painful for Falcons fans. Matt Ryan was the face of the franchise for over a decade. He was the 2016 MVP. He led them to a Super Bowl. He gave everything to that organization. And when they decided to move on, when they traded him to Indianapolis, the compensation was a third-round pick. Just a third-round pick for a franchise quarterback. And that pick became DeAngelo Malone, who managed 3 sacks in 4 years. The article mentions that Malone set the Western Kentucky record with 34 career sacks in college, including 9 in his final year. So it's not like he was some complete unknown. He had production. He had a track record. But the translation to the NFL just never happened. And now, instead of being the pass rusher who justified the Matt Ryan trade, he's a special teams contributor who barely made the Week 1 roster this season. That's not just a bust. That's a catastrophic failure of evaluation and development. And here's what really gets me about this situation. The Falcons desperately needed Malone to work out. The article correctly points out that Atlanta has been near the bottom of the NFL in sacks for 4 consecutive seasons. They needed a pass rusher. They used the Matt Ryan pick on a pass rusher. And that pass rusher contributed almost nothing to the actual pass rush. If there was ever a pick that needed a hit, it was this one. And it didn't just miss, it missed spectacularly. Let me address the defense that some people will try to make. Well, at least he's been solid on special teams. At least he's contributed something. And you know what? That's not good enough. You don't trade a franchise quarterback and use that pick on a special teams player. You can find special teams contributors as undrafted free agents. The whole point of using a third-round pick, especially one that came from trading Matt Ryan, was to get an impact player who could help the defense. And Malone never became that player. The comparison to the Colts side of the trade is interesting because it shows that nobody won. Matt Ryan had an injury-plagued season in Indianapolis, went 4-7-1 as a starter, and the Colts finished 4-12-1. So Indianapolis didn't get what they wanted either. But at least they only gave up a third-round pick. The Falcons gave up a franchise legend and got a special teams player in return. That's not a wash. That's a complete organizational failure on Atlanta's part. And here's what makes this even more frustrating. This is on Terry Fontenot. He's the one who made the Matt Ryan trade. He's the one who decided what the compensation would be. He's the one who used that pick on DeAngelo Malone. So this entire disaster, from start to finish, is his responsibility. And now, as Malone's time in Atlanta comes to an unceremonious end with a significant ankle injury, Fontenot has to live with the fact that his handling of the Matt Ryan situation was a complete failure. The article mentions that Malone barely made the Week 1 roster this season, and that tells you everything you need to know about how the organization views him. He's in the final year of his rookie contract, and instead of being a key piece of the defense, he's fighting just to make the team. That's not what you want from a third-round pick, especially not one that came from trading a franchise icon. Let's talk about opportunity costs, because this is what really hurts. Who else was available in the 3rd round of the 2022 draft? What other players could the Falcons have selected instead of Malone? Without going through the entire draft board, I can guarantee you there were players selected after Malone who've had more productive NFL careers. And that's the painful reality. The Falcons not only whiff on Malone, but they potentially pass on better players to do it. And here's the part that should make Falcons fans absolutely furious. This was preventable. The evaluation process should have identified that Malone's college production might not translate to the NFL. The scouting department should have flagged concerns about his ability to rush the passer at the professional level. But instead, they pulled the trigger on a player who never panned out, and now they're left with nothing to show for trading Matt Ryan except painful memories. The article's conclusion is perfect. O Falcons optive longevity dum linebacker profundidade, Mosnen Huma a keep realment vensuatroca. Nobody won. That's the saddest part of this entire story. The Colts didn't get a franchise quarterback. The Falcons didn't get an impact player. Matt Ryan's final chapter was disappointing. DeAngelo Malone never developed into what they hoped. Everybody lost. And you know what this represents in the bigger picture? It's another example of Terry Fontenot's failures as a general manager. The Kirk Cousins contract. Trading away the 2026 first-rounder. Inaction at trade deadlines. And now, the Matt Ryan trade resulting in DeAngelo Malone. These are all decisions that Fontenot made, and they've all ranged from questionable to disastrous. At what point does ownership look at this track record and say enough is enough? The fact that Malone is probably done in Atlanta after this injury is almost poetic in a tragic way. He came in as a symbol of a new era, the tangible result of moving on from Matt Ryan. And he's leaving as a bust. A player who never lived up to expectations. A reminder of what could have been if the Falcons had either kept Ryan longer or gotten better value in the trade. That's not the legacy anyone wanted. So here's my take on this situation. DeAngelo Malone's failure isn't just about one player not working out. It's about organizational mismanagement at the highest level. It's about trading a franchise icon for inadequate compensation. It's about using that compensation on a player who never developed. And it's about a general manager who continues to make questionable decisions that set this franchise back. The Malone era is over, and all it leaves behind is disappointment and what-ifs. What do you think? Does DeAngelo Malone's failure make the Matt Ryan trade even worse in retrospect? Or is this just one of those unfortunate situations where nobody could have predicted how things would turn out? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And make sure you're subscribed because we're going to keep tracking every painful reminder of this front office's failures.